What's going on? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to another exciting episode of Phil Jones. What's going on with your face, man? You need to go shave and stop playing. No, seriously though. Phil Jones, Mike Jones, have you guys know me personally, professionally, and I am the host of the Extraordinary Man podcast. And you guys know who this guy is over here. I can't even call him this guy, but you know who this extraordinary man is over here. The futuristic thinker. He's a serial thought processor.
Yes.
When they came up with the concept of the i7, the M1 chip, they had to consult with him first to make sure he was in agreement with them taking part of his intellectual property to make a microchip out of. Think that many processors ahead of everybody else. Right now, you can tell by the way his facial features are twitching that he's thinking about the next great innovation. And it's all rooted in his personal logo. But before we get to that, state your name.
What is going on, man? As always, man, these intros are just beyond, you know what I'm saying, just crazy, man. I love them. As always, it's an honor to be here next to my blood brother. I am Midas. Make sure you put a king in front of that. Let's go.
All right, so where we going? Crazy if you let him.
Man, right now we're going to work.
Shout out to that. Like I actually
Mhm.
just got in from work. So for those who can see the title, which if you're watching, you can see the title. The title say, you got to do the work. Now I know. Titles like that sometimes can get a little mundane, make you think too much. And it's Saturday. We should be having fun, kind of letting our head down and kicking back and stuff like that. But I thought, what better way to bring in the week or to close out the week, however you subscribe to it, than to really take time to delve into a very, very simple concept. And that simple concept is this: what do you want? Not necessarily out of life. What do you want right now? Do you know how easy it is to determine certain levels of your own reality? I want you to think about it from this perspective, right? I was driving home and I saw somebody sitting outside and he had a sign. And the sign was, one of those things where it's like he was homeless or he was, whatever his circumstances was. I didn't read the sign, but, just picking up the context clues. And over in a passage of shade was his wife and daughter sitting over there on the side of the road. Now, oddly enough, it's like certain things just make you think. It just make you start saying to yourself, what happened? Where do you have to be? What type of circumstance, what must one get to? So a man feels compelled to have to ask in such a way. But for him to be in such dire straits or to make the appearance that he's in such dire straits, for his woman and child to buy into it, to be out there with him for the panhandle. And where it normally takes me is it makes me think all types of thoughts, everything from the extremes of what kind of man puts his family in this situation, or what if the situation is just that bad that this is literally all that they have. So, I'm wrestling around with it, and then something clicked in my head and said, I wonder what his end game goal is. Where do you graduate from this point? So if you sitting out there, right, and you in a situation to where you are at your lowest point, and you find yourself doing something that you probably wouldn't necessarily want to do. And you turn around and you ask yourself, okay, what is the point that I transition from this back into something seemingly normal? So, as I started pondering around with this, it made me think about everything that we have going on. Extraordinary Men, 344 followers strong. Did you know that?
Hmm.
Of course you did,
Yep.
because you're the serial processor. Of course you did. I didn't have to tell you. You probably saw it before I saw it. Do you know how many episodes we got? Calculate them up in your head.
We have 47 episodes.
All right, I'm not going to get into it with that. However, you, myself, and another person had one of the greatest conversations that we had in a very long time. And what was it based off of?
It was based off our level of consistency, and it was based off of the type of basically the type of individuals that we put ourselves out to be, and what the type of topics that we speak about, and coming from a level of perspective and not coming from a lane of trying to give advice and try to mentally manipulate people, but just talking about real life topics and scenarios, and then trying to come to a common understanding, come to a common understanding as to why things the way they are, or why do we think things the way they are.
So, how do you think that that story that I told in the beginning and the conversation that we just recently had, how do they correlate? How do they tie in together? Do you know?
I'm gonna say that it ties into, you got to do the work. The
It
level of
ties.
consistency speaks for itself.
It ties into a myriad of what you do and how you do.
Hmm.
That you get in certain situations on the negative side because of something that may have happened that either may have been misfortunate, by chance, or ill preparation. You get in situations of fortune, oftentimes by chance, time and space and opportunity meeting each other, and constantly working at something until the time that that thing is ready to go. And when somebody sees it, like, wow, these guys are the real deal.
Yeah. And there's a lot of focus behind it. And for those that don't know, focus means follow one course until success. Rinse, repeat again and again and again. We are here 3 days a week. Now we bumped into, or now we moved up to 4 days a week with Money Mondays. We're here every day, whether we got comments or not, whether we got viewers or not. We are here.
And that's the thing that really resonated with me. Because instead of me looking at that man and his situation and his circumstances, it made me reflect on myself and my circumstances and my thoughts and on everything that it is that I've done, why I have the fortunate situations that I have, and why I had the misfortunate situations that I had. A mixture of mindset, reaction rather than proaction, or being reactive rather than proactive. A series of different things led to these things. So when you ask yourself, what do you mean by you got to do the work? What if you don't know what the clear path is? What is the work then?
I think that and I heard this from one of these motivational speakers, and it kind of makes sense and it kind of don't. But he said that if you know exactly what your path is, if you know exactly how to obtain a specific goal, then your goal isn't big enough. And it's like I do and don't agree. And the reason is I do agree because I do want to be able to obtain a goal for one, and I want to be able to have these short wins because the short wins moving towards my goal is going to keep me motivated and interested in pursuing forward outside of just what my why for doing it is. And what I say? I do agree. Okay, so I don't agree, or I do agree because when you start getting out there and you start moving towards what that goal is, then you start to develop how to maneuver on your path, and you start to figure out what avenues you need to take as you start pursuing that goal. So it's a double-edged sword to me, you know. That's just my thought process behind that. So
Well, look at it from this perspective. Based on what I heard you say, immediately what came to mind was, yeah, there's a clear linear path, but where you're going to take it may not necessarily be up to you, so to speak, but it may be up to
right.
you following the path where it's leading you. So,
And that's why I kind of agree with what he was saying, because again, the like my path, I had no clue that my path was going to lend me a senior technical engineer job at a construction company. I had no clue. And I had no idea that this was going to be part of Nerdy Nerd's journey to becoming more established. I had no idea.
and along with that, it's like you sit here and you look at things, and it's not necessarily built off of any level of accolade, but it's built off of the fact that the things that you're learning in the journey. So the thing about it is, the if you didn't craft that original skill, none of this comes to pass.
Right.
That you break our fix or Shurion, whatever they call it now, you break our fix didn't know that they would become a subsidiary of Ashurion when they
Mhm.
started.
Right.
They didn't know that their portion, whether they got bought out or whether they got engulfed or whether they got did a merger or whatever have you. They didn't know that when they came up with that idea. Just like when you went down the same path you break our fix did, and the same path as Geek Squad, you didn't know that it would take you to a senior executive position or
Right.
senior engineer position. You don't know where it's going to take you. But the thing is, the fact that the one thing is for certain is that everybody did the work. You didn't know you were doing senior executive level work when you were opening up a phone. Had no idea. So that's when I sit there and you look at it to where it's like you see that man outside. I'm more concerned about what is the game plan beyond the part that I can see.
Hmm.
Because you can have your own idea about what things look like, but what's the game plan beyond it? Like, as far as everything that we have going on, for those who see a podcast, who see two brothers sitting on a podcast with backgrounds, whatever color they turn up with the light in that day,
Hmm.
having a myriad of conversations and putting a perspective on conversations, what we discuss and what we're building with the relationships and with the new additions and the add-ons and the new features that's coming with this thing, we didn't know when we were having men's group meetings every Tuesday that this would be part of the outcome. We had no idea. But everybody doesn't know the origin story of this thing. Everybody wasn't privy to it.
And
Everybody
it's so
wasn't coming in.
organic. And the way that it happened was so organic. Like it's I mean, it was beautiful the way that it organically just became this. You know, it developed a mind of its own. It almost became sentient. It developed its own, thought process and feelings and everything.
But that's the
It's
point.
so crazy.
Is that a level of work ethic in myself had to be established during the journey to where I had to get called out about my inconsistencies. And I was told, if you're going to be the leader, you got to lead. And you have to lead by example. And whether you like it or not, you got to be the first one in that room every day. No exceptions. You don't get a sick day. You don't get a, oh, I'm so tired, I can't. You don't get to do that because this is what you sold people. So if you don't show that you believe it, how do you expect them to? So in that, certain aspects of self got cultivated and got carved out along the journey phase. From 0 subscribers, from not knowing how to build an Instagram following, from not even having a single video on the TikTok, to looking at the organic growth of people who are looking for this type of content, and to see how over a 4 or 5 month span of time that, wow, look at how quick things change. Look at how you could put something out and 100 people come over and come check it out and comment and like and share it and send it all over the world. And how it's just like, hey, I do well over 1,000 views a day to speak my mind, not to do little dance videos and do little weird stuff for attention, but just to give perspective on life.
Mhm.
Who knew that what we decided around back and forth, yin and yang and about at 17, 18 was going to turn into a venture?
Yeah.
This, that camera, that logo, all came together part of nothing. It was an idea. And the idea said,
Mhm.
okay, let's see where this goes. And this time next year, we get to look back at the timestamp of May 27, 2023 and say, you remember when we had that conversation on the podcast? Yeah, life has definitely changed since then. In
Yeah.
whatever
And,
direction it goes.
and I wanna and I wanna, say make sure we put some sauce in the ribs when you said that this was a conversation, even though you're seeing the fruits of that conversation today. But this conversation happened almost 15, 16, 17 years ago when we talked about doing something together, building something together, and now here it is. It's almost like when if I'm not mistaken, I believe it was Spielberg that he already had the movie. I believe it's Spielberg, and anybody can correct me in the comment section if I got it wrong. But he already had Avatar, already had it written, ready to go. He had to wait for the technology to catch up for him to be able to produce the movie, to give his vision of how he wanted that movie to be. And this is what you're seeing with the Extraordinary Men podcast.
And that's just
Um,
and that's just one phase of it.
That's just one phase, and then I want to talk about how the mindset of that man that's out there with his wife and kid. That what exactly is he going through? Like what, like where do you have to be in your life, or what had happened in your life to where you have to panhandle and get your family involved to do it with you. And I believe this was you that said the story about there was this guy and this young lady that they were both pretty much homeless, but they were working together. They still had jobs, but they had a plan. They were homeless, but they had a plan and they had each other. And they were working together to build up to get, a house and all of that together. And I just think that that's powerful to where you have this end of the spectrum to where you have this man that believes that he has to, panhandle. He's homeless, but he chose the panhandle route and he got his family involved. Where do you have to be mentally to do that? How low do you have to be, and uh what choices did you make to where you now have to do that? To where you got this other side of the spectrum to where these people are in the exact same position, homeless, but even the homeless man over here has a plan and putting it in motion with his lady because his lady believes in the plan.
And you know, it's
And that's
crazy.
powerful.
And it's crazy how when you sit there and you look at it, that woman didn't seem upset. That woman didn't seem discouraged. She didn't seem anything other than let me focus on my part, which is keeping our daughter entertained so that she's not focused on this situation. And she sat there and she played with the little girl in a beach chair on the side of the expressway while he stood out there and did what he did. And
Mm.
it's like there's so much power in a visual just because it makes you think about so many different aspects, right? Was there something that was taken for granted? Was there a gift that he didn't realize that he had? Was there unrealized expectation? Was it time to get out of something that he was riding a wave on? Was it too good, too long, and you didn't see the exit? You never really know. Or what if you just got here to this country? And what if you barely speak English or you barely know anything about the lay of the land? What if this moment and what you're doing is actually a hell of a lot better than where you were before you got here? What if this was part of the dream that you established with your spouse on the way here to say, I'm going to work myself from the ground up? And he literally meant from the ground up. And she's out there proud of him because he being a man of his word. And he's going to learn how to do it some way. Again, I didn't read the sign. For all I know, the sign said, I'm a foreigner looking for work. But the automatic assumption would be something negative because of the way that we are trained to see things. However, the perspective is, what if that is part of his process of doing the work? And it's just beyond my realm of understanding. It's an interesting way to look at things. And it's like perspective is such a beautiful thing when you think about it because of the fact that who am I to judge that man's walk, especially based off of something that I don't know? I didn't stop and give
Yeah.
that man anything. I didn't stop and give that man anything. I probably would have. I mean, he was far on the other side of the road. But regardless of any of it, it just got me to thinking about how many layers deep a situation is. And just because I might not understand it doesn't mean that it doesn't disqualify it as work.
Yeah. So this Thursday, I went to this spot over here. I believe that section is Blue Island too. It used to be called AP Deli. Now it's called Alpha.
Uh,
And there was a gentleman that came in there, just, hey man, what I'm saying, anybody can, a hot dog, anything, asking the people, man, do y'all got scraps? Do y'all, in front of everybody. So it moves you a certain way to where when you see somebody actually come in and ask, man, is the trash still out back? You know what I'm saying? Y'all still got food in there in the you know what I'm saying? So I bought the man a meal, like damn, excuse the language, but it's like it really put me in a state of mind to really think of how fortunate, a lot of us are, saying, to where there are people out here coming in and they literally are begging for scraps. And it puts you into perspective of, how did you get here? And why are you okay being here? Are you not okay being here? And if you're not okay being here, what are you doing outside to put you in a better position? You know, I didn't get an opportunity to really sit down and have a conversation with this man, but you can see it in his eyes that his spirit was definitely broken. And it I ain't trying to change the mood of the today's show, but it was like, man, that really touched me a certain way, man. Like, to really think about things, to think about, blessings that we had, what I'm saying, being able to grow up with both parents. Got a wonderful brother. And a lot of people just don't have that.
The one thing is too, and it's like, it takes nothing away from what it is that you said. Actually, it adds a little bit more depth to what was stated. One of the things that you don't always realize in the time is how quick we are to judge a situation based on how it looks without understanding the story. When I used to work at Macy's in downtown Chicago, I made it my business because we got paid every week. And I didn't make a whole bunch of money. But before I went to school, every week, every Friday when I got paid, I would take a homeless person, I would buy them food. And I just wanted to know their story if they were willing to share it. It didn't disqualify them from getting a meal, anything like that. Like, hey, there's a McDonald's right over here. Look, I'm one paycheck away from being where you at. So I'm not here to judge you. So I had one guy tell me a story that I thought was just so interesting. He says that he was making good money, stockbroker, and you could just kind of listen to him. And again, at that time, I'm listening to somebody from the ears of a 19, 20-year-old. As I'm listening to him talk, though, it's just like there's so much passion and conviction in what he's saying. And in him saying it, he's like, I used to work in the stock market. I did this. I went to school for this. I started working for the stock exchange and started getting really involved, really invested. And I knew it was going to be something dealing with advice because he started off prefacing the fact that he'd never had a drink before. Came home, brother was getting married. Came to come and hang out with the fiance and everything like that. Boom. Brother runs out, goes to work or wherever it is that he went to. Fiance opens up a bottle of wine and say, hey, come celebrate with me. I say, no, don't do that. Oh, come on, it's a special occasion. It's nothing, no harm in one glass. So he has one. Obviously, no harm. It's wine. It's not gonna do nothing to you. So one turn to two, two turn to three turn to a bottle.
Mm-hmm.
All he knows that he's hungover and he wakes up after he comes to. There's his brother looking at him with a scary face. He look at himself, nothing but his boxers on. Looks
Mm-hmm.
over, his brother's fiance in his bed.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He told me that it takes him everything in a day to not kill himself because his brother was his best friend. And he don't know for sure if anything even happened, but just the thought of betraying him took him off the deep end. And he never recovered. So I asked him, did you ever reach out to your brother to try to patch things up. And he was just like, I can't bear the thought of the shame that I brought to my family. He's like, that was my best friend my entire life. Now, mind you, this man was like 40 at the time. We're talking about somebody who, if he's still alive now, he's almost 60 years old.
Mm.
And he's telling me a story about an incident that happened in his 20s. So this man has been on the street. He's been on the street for almost 20 years, dealing with the demon of guilt and shame. So I say that story to say that when you hear these situations and you look at certain circumstances, as I've told many people, like, I've never tried drugs because it's never been because I know it's bad. It's because I'm afraid I might like it. I'm afraid I might enjoy it. I'm afraid that I might make excuses for why I don't want to stop using them. I'm afraid it's going to become a part of my regular, everyday, ordinary routine.
It's going to become a bill. It's going to become a utility bill right
a
along
lifestyle.
with the gas and lights.
I'm afraid it's going to become a lifestyle. That's why I've never tried drugs. Because I don't want it to become part of my lifestyle. I don't want it to be, okay, got to work, got to go to the grocery store, go cop some crack. I can't fathom that being a part of my day to day.
Yeah, it was implemented into your routine.
Yeah, so now it's like, oh, I gotta go. Like I've convinced myself I gotta go buy a bag of weed. And sometimes when you are in an environment or in a situation or a circumstance, you come to the realization that part of doing the work is identifying potential issues is going to knock you off your square and eliminating all possibles. So you have to think about it. Me leaving Chicago probably had no specific bearing on me quitting smoking cigarettes. But what it did do is it gave me another environment to where I got a chance to mentally clear myself of all of the triggers that associated with the activity. So once it came time to break the chain, I didn't need a 12-step program. Instead, it was just saying, okay, well, time to let them go. That's it. And that was it. I haven't touched a cigarette in over a decade. Never backslid, never did anything. Just gave my pack away, and that was it. It was over. But sometimes the work is understanding that I may not be strong enough at this time to fight this fight here. Be big enough to remove myself out of the equation and put myself in a place to where I can be successful or where I increase my odds of being successful. It's like you working a job. You know, if you stayed at Office Depot, you probably could have worked yourself up the ladder, but you'd probably be miserable right now.
Yep.
So there's a lot of aspects to it, to where when you really take the time to look at what qualifies as the work. That's why when this title came up and when this concept came up, the work can be fun, the work can be tragic, the work can be simply listening to somebody else's story and learning to appreciate what you have. But you can't be so set in my perspective is the only perspective. And that's what a lot of us suffer from, is that We look at our lives and we use our lives as a reflection outward instead of looking at our lives and making comparisons to see, okay, I had a statistical advantage in this area that this person didn't have. I'm not saying that you make excuses for them. I'm saying you be grateful for what you had. Now, I don't know all the details about what's going on in Ukraine, but guess what? I could say I've been hungry for a day. I could say that I had to eat minimal because my money was low, but I could never say that I had to survive a bomb strike.
Yeah. Never had to survive tanks driving over my car.
Never had to worry about hurrying up and getting out of Dodge before the opposing military come in and shoot the place up. Now, my rations was based on the fact that I wasn't working hard enough. I was too comfortable doing what I was doing, and I was making do with mediocrity. In hindsight, of course. At that time, you thinking you're doing what you got to do, but looking at it in hindsight, I could have been a manager of Macy's easily. It was offered to me several times. What prevented me from being a manager at Macy's was my dreams of doing things with a statistical chance of success was very low. But of course, like most people, we think we're the outlier. And two, my work ethic did not match my dreams. Now, yes, you have the skill. You could sit in the studio and you could produce a song. Yes, you could do these things, but were you outside of the radio stations? Were you at the places that you needed to be in order to make the connections, in order to build and gain the respect of the people who were in position to put you from here to here? No, I wasn't out there. I wasn't. I wasn't putting in the work. Translation, I didn't want it. I didn't want it. Couldn't have. Because I want this and I'm here every day.
Mm-hmm.
When you get serious and you start following the path, you can easily look at your own reflection and pinpoint the times that you weren't on the path. And you stop lying to yourself and stop kidding yourself about the difference between then and now. That same skill that I took for granted then is helping me now. But I became willing to walk this walk, whereas I wasn't as willing to walk that walk when it was time for it. And that's crazy. You know why it's crazy? Because that's never been a problem that you had. As far back as I can remember, you were always the one that said, as soon as somebody had an idea, hey, we should go dig holes in the park. You grabbing your shovel like, yo, all right, y'all said we was gonna meet at the park at 3 o'clock. Where y'all at? I got my shovel. Oh man, we was just joking. I wasn't joking. I'm ready to dig holes. That was you,
Mm-hmm.
110%. And people will blame the perception of your privilege on the reason why you had things, but you had things because there's plenty of people from two-parent households. There's plenty of people who had a little bit of money or had extra resources, a little surplus. There's plenty of those people that don't have nothing going on today because they were reliant on those things. You have them because regardless of what people were willing to give you, you still worked 2 jobs. You wanted your own. You had no idea what it is that you wanted, but you knew that you wanted to earn it. You wanted it to be yours. That's the vast difference between you and most other people. That's never been the thing that you had to teach yourself. Never had to teach yourself work ethic. You never had to teach yourself seeing something through all the way to the end. You may have struggled in certain areas, but you never had to convince yourself to do or not to do. Sometimes people had to convince you to get out of that. Stop. No, man, I got to get him. Like, no. Try claws. Take over for a second. I gotta step out for a briefing.
Yeah. So, and I promise I'm not putting her on blast, okay? But here's what's going on. So last night, I drove 2.5 hours to Indianapolis to go fulfill a job for Portillo's, okay? I worked through the night. 2.5 hours, went straight in to the job, knocked out the job, worked through the whole entire night, did the 2.5 hour drive back, and now I'm on this live. Okay. When you talk about sleep, when you talk about tired, when you're talking about, you know what I'm saying, wanting to be held accountable, wanting to push through to see yourself be a better you, I could have easily said, you know what, I'm not feeling the podcast today. You know, I'm dog tired. I haven't showered yet. Straight into the podcast. You know, I would love to be in the bed right here, right now. I'm definitely going to crash in the next 20, 25 minutes when we reach our hour and we close out. I'm definitely going to crash. But I say that because we don't use tired as an excuse to not want to do things that we say that we want to do and push ourselves to the limit that we want to push ourselves. And we're not going to, you know, we're basically putting what we want to do on hold just over simply for tired. Well, there's this other dude over here that probably has the same dream and don't even know they don't even have a bed because they don't sleep. Their motivation is that much higher than yours. There's always going to be somebody that is going to outwork you. You put in 60 hours, I'm going to put in 80. You put in 80, I'm going to put in 100. You put in 100, I'm going to put in 140. There's always going to be somebody that wanted more than you. But you have to be that other person on the opposite end to have that exact same fire and desire and drive to want to push yourself to be the end result that you say that you want to be. Okay. Now, again, I'm not putting my homegirl on blast. You know what I'm saying? We cool. We cooler than a fan. But I want to address that you don't put the ball down. You don't quit the game or you don't put the game on pause simply because you're tired. When you're tired, that should be more of a reason for you to step down harder on the pedal. So I want to make sure that you guys, you know what I'm saying, get that piece of information that if you're going to be successful, if you want to be successful as bad as you want to breathe, when you want to be successful as bad as you want to breathe, I saw that on a shirt once, but it resonated. If you want to be successful as bad as you want to breathe, then you will be successful. But being tired, that's no reason to not want to go the extra mile, put in just an extra 15 minutes of work just to see it. You know what I'm saying? You know what? I'm just finna go ahead and just knock it out. I got a phone. I'm gonna go ahead and just, you know what I'm saying? All it takes is a button to go live for like 15 seconds, 20 seconds. Hey y'all, this is what I'm doing. This is what I got going on. You know what I'm saying? Come holler at me. I'm out here. Buy this. Done. But not doing that because you're tired, you don't want to be successful. You don't. So I hope y'all, you know what I'm saying, take what you will from that, chop it up, analyze it, mold it, flip it, make it relate to you in some way, shape, form, or fashion, make it mean something to you. Everybody is going to hear that message different. Some people may take it as me being an a-hole. Man, I'm tired. I'm going to bed. Okay, cool. Not a problem. But your next door neighbor is going to outwork you and get that shine that you're supposed to have.
You know, and even let's throw some sauce on them ribs. Throw some sauce on them ribs. Let's go ahead and throw some sauce on that real quick, man. The thing about work ethic, you have to understand that the reason why you work so hard really has very little to do with the hard work itself. Everything that you do is to make what you do easier so that you can replicate it faster, so that you become a better practitioner of that thing that you enjoy the most.
Mm-hmm.
Whether or not you realize it, everything that you do, you're doing for a reason. Even procrastinating, believe it or not, by not doing anything, you're practicing being lazier. You're practicing more effective ways to do nothing. You're practicing making better excuses. So whether you see it
Mm.
or not, whether you realize it or not, whether you understand that or not,
Hold on. Hold on. You're practicing making better excuses. Mm. And even that requires work.
and you don't realize that you're working at it every day. The reason why you have not put in for that promotion, you're practicing your reason right now. Oh, well, I don't really like the job, or I don't really like this, or I don't really like it. Whatever your reason for whatever it is that you do, whatever you do, you're practicing it every second and every moment of the day. And that's really what it all boils down to, is that even when you don't think that you're doing anything, you're doing something. Even when you don't know what to do, even when you don't know what you got going on, you got something going on. And that's where a lot of us fail to realize that we make our biggest mistakes because we don't realize that we are robots ourselves. We are computers ourselves. We are AI. Everything that we do, we are practicing it. Everything that's a habit. The concept of AI is as followed. Whatever you put into it makes it stronger and better and stronger and better. So if you lie all the time, you're going to become a stronger and better liar. If you a procrastinator, you're going to become a stronger and better procrastinator, which means to reverse engineer whatever you programmed yourself to do is going to be a bigger fight because you have so many years of perfect practice at doing the negative behavior. You learn how.
And that's crazy.
If you're a beggar, you're going to find better ways to beg. You're going to find ways to say things that are going to pull on people's heartstrings. You're going to
Yeah.
find different ways to say the things that are going to motivate people to give you their hard-earned money. If you're a manipulator, you're going to get better at manipulating. If you're a con artist, you're going to get better at conning. All of these things, whether you don't realize it or not, everything that you do that is good and everything that you do that is bad, that you continue to do on a regular basis, you are only becoming better. You are programming your human intelligence, the original AI machine. You are programming it to do that thing that you are cultivating it to do. Just
Mm-hmm.
like eating certain foods, your body is learning to perform at peak performance with the food that you're putting in it. That's why when you start drinking water after you haven't drunk water in so long, that's why your body has that's why it has that effect to it, because it gets a jolt of something good. That's why when you go to
Mm-hmm.
the gym that first day and it's like, man, I just feel like I'm just and I have this.
Yeah, those endorphins start flying. You know what I'm saying? Like I finally understood. Start working out. I finally understood that concept of high off life, not just simply because I've been able to acquire an abundance amount of things and all these statuses and all. That's no, just doing something as simple as just hitting the gym and working out for an hour, dude. It releases the same endorphins as if you are getting high. It feels great, and I want to keep that same feeling, dog.
And the funny thing about it is that we very seldom look at it from that perspective. We very seldom see it as we are conditioning ourselves. If you sleep late every day, you're going to, and you go to sleep late every day, you're conditioning yourself. That's why when you have to do something that changes your schedule, that's where you're groggy. That's why you're all messed up. That's why you're discombobulated because you are conditioned to a behavior. And the more
Yeah,
you do it, the stronger the condition.
yeah. Your software is coded to be ran a certain way. So, and that's crazy that you brought up the software. I feel like you was in this conversation with me and this individual yesterday, where I had brought up, people utilize again the human. We are the original computer, the Mac, the Windows, the Acer, the Dell, the HP. It's all built off of us as a human. It's designed after us. So if you're not choosing to, when your programming gets filled, one is not debugged. When you allow your programming to get filled with all the viruses and malware and spyware and things of that nature, that's your laziness, your procrastination, racism, and all this other garbage that you allow to get installed into your operating system, and you're refusing to start dragging and dropping things into the waste bin, and then maybe reinstall, deinstall, and reinstall your operating system to now you're going to install seeing things through. You're going to install joy. You're going to install whatever, anything that's going to be put in to help you push through to your end result. You got a lot of people that's still running on Windows 7, and Windows 7 isn't supported no more. They're not sending out new patches. They're not sending out new virus updates. Tech support, you can't even get on the phone and talk to tech support when it comes to Windows 7. We're on Windows 11 now. But you got a lot of people that refuse to update their software.
And the excuses come based on not wanting to do the work. I mean, at the end of the day, we have to come to the realization that whether you like it or not, no matter how you feel about things, there's always going to be work to do. There's always going to be some other layer that you have to add to it in order to make it make sense. And believe you me, the one thing that I know that I despise the most is doing something that I don't want to do. But I've never done something I didn't want to do. And in the conclusion of that thing that I did, that I didn't feel a sense of reward for doing it. I felt good for going through it and getting it done. For every
Mhm.
homework assignment that I didn't want to do, for every paper that I didn't want to write, for every hard conversation that I had, for every time that I had to be the boss. Sometimes you got to be you want to be the cool guy, the laid back, hey, saying this. But sometimes you got to be the boss. And every time that I actually had to, all right, look, y'all taking advantage. We're finna nip this in the bud right now.
Yeah.
And you see that you created that bridge of respect back in the situation, you feel good about it. You don't feel good when your kindness is being taken for a weakness, but you feel good when you don't have to be the disciplinarian all the time. Because after you done pulled the belt out one good time and they know that you're capable, they fall in line.
And I think another thing that, what I'm saying, if you're on the employee side, what I'm saying, first of all, thank you, what I'm saying, and thank you for the ones that still we still going through these situation. We can't mention it, because then YouTube will try to shadow ban the
Oh
video.
Lord.
But we had the pandemic. So thank you to those that showed up during that and still showing up after that. But you got to understand that your manager, your boss, does not want to be a dragon slayer. You guys, the way that you operate and the way that you move, you know what you have to do. You know your task is go in, knock it out, and let's go home. Yes, we can laugh and kiki and all that, so you know what I'm saying, but let's stay on task, let's stay on topic, let's make sure that we're working safely, because I don't want my bonus hit. I don't want my bonus hit, but it's you guys with wanting to be lazy, wanting to do short, wanting to take an easy route, finding shortcuts to get things done when you need to do it this way. There's a specific reason why we do it this way. Oh, look, now we gotta break back down the pallet, restack, rewrap. So now we lost production time, we lost the shrink wrap, because shrink wrap costs. So now we got to do this all over again because you decided to want to do a little shortcut, and now the boss has to come out and slay a dragon. And a lot of times that you guys cause your own problems, but you can simply just come in, do what you got to do, and just go home. So I just want to put that out there. Just do the work. Just do the work and go home. Do the work, go home, and you ain't got to have no issues with the boss, and you don't have to feel conflicted because you was cool just 20 minutes ago, and now you out here barking. Well, there's a reason. There's a reason.
And with that being said, I just want to make sure that it is clear and understood that when we are doing what we're doing in this life, we have to understand that more so than anything else, you have to train yourself. You have to understand that you're constantly programming that human computer of yours to see things a certain kind of way. And if you don't treat it properly, don't be surprised with the results that you get. Don't be surprised at the results that you get with the food that you eat. Why you feel sluggish all the time, and why you feel like you're in poor health all the time. Don't be surprised when you realize that, man, once I finally get something that I want, or I'm finally aiming for something I want, why I get passed over. Don't be surprised why the relationship that you thought, because you put in minimal effort, that you thought that you would get maximum return out of, that your ideas are not being reciprocated because what you put into it is being put out. You're getting back what you actually put into. You're reaping what you sowed. So if you only put in a mustard seed, don't be surprised when you only get back a single piece of mustard plant. It's just not feasible to think that I'm going to get a whole harvest off of one seed right out the gate. So we have to be mindful that before you can really understand where you're going, you have to be willing to say, I'm ready to go. You have to be willing to grab the keys and just say, all right, I'm just going to hop in the car and I'm going to see where it takes me. I have to have the mind on the fact that I'm not aimlessly driving. I'm looking for a destination. You have to also take into consideration the fact that your journey is your journey. You own that journey. It's nobody else's. So you can't expect other people to A, understand that journey, and B, you can't expect that other people are intended to go on that journey with you. Ultimately, what ends up happening with a lot of us is we gas out if we don't have somebody with us at the time that we're going through what we're going through or doing what we're doing. I am the number one guilty party of gassing out of a situation because other people don't believe in it or because other people won't follow through with it. This was the year between 2021 and now was the first time in my life that an idea that I did not start independently, that I kept going despite adversity. And what I mean by that is that whenever I had an idea with a shared collective and it wasn't received, I dropped it. This is the first time in my life that we said, you know what? I'm going to be on that podcast. I'm going to be on that live, and I don't care if I'm on it by myself. I don't care if there's a single soul there. I don't care if anybody else believes in it. I don't care if nobody else shows up. You understand that when you truly believe in it and you truly care about it and it's truly something that's actually embedded in you to do right by, you will do right by it. You'll make less excuses for the reason why you can't, and you'll start finding more reasons why you should. And just to top it all off, you only need one reason why. You only need one reason. You could think of a million reasons why, as he was stating earlier. Oh, I'm tired. I need some sleep. For me, I just come home every Saturday. I'm coming straight home from work to sit in this chair to have these conversations. In doing so, we get great content and give what people have told us is great perspective on various subjects. Now, this feeling of gratification is that I gave the hour. Now, the excuse could be I'm tired. I came home straight from work. I had a rough day at work. I'm mentally drained. I'm physically drained walking on that concrete floor all night. Man, it's just been so much. I'm hungry. Now that I ate a little bit, I'm famished or whatever have you. I'm tired. I just want to just go ahead and rest. Hey, man, I'm not going to do it today. But all it takes is one reason. And that one reason is it's just an hour. It's just an hour. You can't give up an hour. You mean to tell me that you could drive an hour to and from a job, but you can't dedicate an hour to your own thing?
Yeah, to yourself. Yeah.
It's just an hour. As soon as the hour's up, you can go right to sleep. And you know the funny thing about it is every time that I'm so sluggish and tired doing these Saturday shows, by the time I'm done, I'm on my way to the store, about to wash the car. My day is lit. I get invigorated. I get a second energy doing it.
Mhm.
And that's what I meant about that gratification feeling about doing the thing that you don't want to do. That because once I have fought myself to not succumb to that feeling or that desire to not do it, once I push through anyway, it gives you a new energy each time. Each time. I don't know about anybody else. That's my feeling. Every
My thoughts on it is it's baffling. It's mind-boggling that you can go into someone else's establishment. You can go into somebody else's dream and clock in, and you can put in 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours, 12 hours, and do that repeatedly. But when you get off, you won't put in the 4 hours, the 6 hours, the 8 hours, the 12 hours in your own dream. You won't clock into your own dream.
well, that's because
That is mind boggling to me.
look at it from this perspective. Your dream is still a dream. The reality of their dream is the reason you have a job. You have not crossed over to make your dream an action. Because you know that phase that if it's in your head, it's a dream. If it's on paper, it's a plan. And once you start executing, is when it
Yeah.
somebody has
Mhm.
already did the dream, the plan, the execution, so that you could have a job. So because it's real and it's tangible, you respect it more. Because you have to develop, as I was saying earlier, you have to develop that coding in yourself of executing on things. So if you don't have the development, you don't have the muscle memory of executing on ideas, you'll have a rough start ever trying to get yourself to move on a dream. It's going to remain a dream because the dream itself is euphoric. You always have something in the back of your mind to fantasize about. That's what it is. And I know you said you can't wrap your mind around it, but that's actually what it is that there's a euphoria about the idea of something. That you sit back and if I look at a woman on Instagram, there's a euphoria of the idea of that woman, but that woman might be complete and utter trash if you ever actually met her in person. But the good woman that you find that may not have the looks or the appeal of that Instagram photo, she has everything else. And because of that, in your eyes, she looks way better than that visual piece will ever look. And that's the reality.
That's interesting. That is that people get an endorphin release. It's so a euphoria around just the thought of having the dream in the back of their mind. That's interesting, bro. I ain't gonna lie. That's very interesting. It's very interesting that they get a rush off just having the idea.
You know why? Because it's like a kid wanting to go outside when they see that first snow. You know you can't go outside, but you see it and you think about all the things that you want to do. But the action of going outside to play in the snow is, ooh, that's cold. I want to go back in the house. That's the reality of when you finally, because the euphoria is, I want to build a snowman. I want a snowball fight. I want to just dive in it and jump in it. That's the euphoria of all the great things that happen. Then the plan is, okay, get your schoolwork done, and then you can go throw your snowsuit on, throw a couple of layers on there, grab your gloves, whatever have you. And the reality of it is when you get that first snowball to the face, and it's just like, woo, nah, I'm good on that, bro. Like I've been, I've been outside 15 minutes, and my cheeks are red and rosy, and I'm talking like this because it was so cold out here. I didn't realize it was so cold out here. That's the reality of it. But the reality of the dream is when you can actually sit back and look at, despite the elements, despite all the things, all that adversity, you get to look at that snowman and say, I made that. I feel successful. I did that. That carrot, the cold buttons, the nose, the eyes, the little hat on top, the little scarf around. I did that. Despite everything. So the same way I dreamt that snowman up, I did everything I was supposed to do to get the opportunity to build the snowman. Then I got out there and it was cold and I wanted to give up. But I built that snowman anyway. And now every time I look out my window, I see success. A lot of us never get past the if that was me, the if so then phase. That's why you hear people talking about all the time. If I had $1 billion or if I ever hit the lottery, this is what I would do. They always tell you what they would do if they were ever in a situation. But why not ever actually put in the work to get into that situation so that you can do it? Because the
Yeah,
euphoria.
because I'm thinking about that snowman. I'm thinking about that snowman. A snowman, and looking at a typical snowman is 3 layers. Okay, you got 3 balls stacked on top of each other. Okay, it takes time and effort. You have to start it real small with one little snowball, and you got to roll it and roll it and roll it and roll it and roll it. You got to put a lot of work in if you want to build a nice snowman, and that's what baffles me is that we're so willing to put all this time and effort and energy into things that don't give us any true big massive amount of reward or result for us. We're gonna spend however many hours it take to build that snowman, but we won't put in however many hours it take to turn our dream into a reality so that you can then have people clocking into your dream.
Well, the big thing about it is that it really is not about that. That's actually what it really is about. Is that it really has nothing to do with that thing because the dream was never intended to be realized.
Okay, now
That's why it never materialized into a plan.
you know what? You know what? I think that's a bomb, G. I think that gave me a better, clear understanding. I'm a bomb that. It was never meant to be realized.
And for somebody like yourself who doesn't like to waste time, that doesn't like to waste energy, you don't register to that concept that some people are really just talking just to talk. That dream was never intended to be realized, and it's never going to be. And that's one of the hardest parts of being somebody who is a doer, is that being a doer requires you to do the work. And doing the work, you come to the realization that things operate a little differently than what you intended. It's struggle, it's strife, it's things that tie into it that make for a difficult outcome if you're not paying attention. Things that make sense to people who sit around and have euphoric moments with friends and family who talk about what they would do if they were them, if it was this. Those dreams are never to be realized because they're not going to ever work on them. It's never going to happen. Every once in the blue moon, you'll see somebody break away and they'll actually start doing it. But for the most part, this is what happens. And I can't explain to you the psychology of why it happens, but I do believe that there's some element of a desire to dream about something that is bigger than self. I believe that this also ties into the reason why religion is so addictive. The reason why porn is so addictive because the fantasy of what it would be like is alluring. Instagram, everything it's a fictitious world of a narrative that does not exist. But as long as I can scroll through it and I can live through a piece of it for a couple of seconds each day, for an hour, 2 hours, the euphoria of the twerk video, the euphoria of the photo of the school teacher or the naughty schoolgirl that's actually an adult, whatever the circumstances may be. The allure of looking at Jay Z and imagining I was trading places with Jay Z for just a minute. If I was just standing on that stage and it was me rocking that crowd, or you with that microphone and doing what it is that he's doing, it's like there's an allure to the dream, but that dream isn't a desire. It isn't something that's sought after. It's just a momentary euphoria, an unrealized high that lasts just like that. And I believe it's necessary too. I believe if people had to deal with the strict reality of what their lives were, there'll be far more suicides because by and large, a great deal of people are unsuccessful. By and large, a great deal of people are. Why do you think that the Gary V's and all these other guys? Why do you think these career motivators are so inspiring? Because
That's exactly what my mind went.
they wake up. Daniel Pena cursing you out is because he is saying to you what you feel about yourself. Somebody is speaking the language. So that toxic way of you feel here. So that way of speaking actually resonates with you to where that harsh tone is because you have an issue to where you need somebody that's more of a stern father like presence to get you
Hmm.
up. That's why you have those people who are just give it to me in a raw, just tell me the way that it is. Because they want their feelings hurt. They want to be broken down and rebuilt. They have a desire for it. There's a euphoria of being a man. There's a euphoria. Do you know how many men wish that they could speak openly and say what they feel and be respected? Some men, the idea of being respected in a room of their peers is a euphoria. That very thing. They daydream about being popular for a day, about being to walk in and people not making fun of them behind their back, not getting laughed at. They dream about self-confidence. That euphoria in small doses is actually necessary to provide balance to people. Freaky, huh?
Well, I got a euphoria hitting this bed. Doing that overnight. But that's very interesting, Mike. So I definitely appreciate the perspective. And it takes that, saying, for somebody to, be able to be on the opposite end of understanding, saying where that mental state is, where it comes from, and why it's there. Again, like you said, I'm just a doer. I'm okay. You want to do the pot? Okay, let's go. You know what I'm saying? Hey, you know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get a microphone, all this and that. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, here's a link. $30. You can get the mixer, you can get the mic, you can get the pop screen, you can get this. Here it is. There you go. Get
If
it.
you
Let's
serious,
go.
I'll loan you the money. If
Yeah.
you serious, I'll give you the money. Just don't waste my time.
Yeah. And you know what I'm saying? I've always operated in that manner. And it's just interesting to hear, that aspect of it and have it broken down like that. You know. Really psychology is it's dangerous.
Well, that's the root of it that ties into the synonymous nature of artificial intelligence. Is the fact that the more that you put in, the more that you understand is that some people get lost in the euphoria. The harder that their lives get, the more desire for the euphoria. That's why the strip club is so alluring. That's why these other distractions, that's why the bar is so alluring. That's why the bar is necessary. It's a necessary evil to have some place to go to watch the game, to have some camaraderie, to rather than going home. If the reality of going to work, coming home every day, and dealing with things and the monotony of cherry, 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 bell, 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 if that was our lives every day, it would drive us insane. It just doesn't work. It's not really. A lot of what we say, a lot of what we do is not rooted in reality. A lot of it is. It takes a special kind of person like Steve Jobs to get up and wear the same outfit to work every day. Because for many of us, what we put on our body is an aspect of our expression. And to have change breaks up the monotony. The going to the clothing store is a part of the euphoria. Going to go and grab my favorite beer after a week of work is part of the euphoria. To sit and grab the Xbox controller and play Apex Legends and go and blow some heads off and part of the euphoria. It's a necessary evil. I don't even call it necessary evil. It's a necessary component of being able to break up the monotony of what the reality of our lives are. But drugs work the same way. Sex works the same way. All of these different vices, they work the same way. It's necessary to break up the monotony, but some of us get lost in it because our realities suck. I don't care what somebody tells you out their mouth. I don't care how big and bad they try to make it. If you look at the reality of the people that are around you, most of their realities suck. And that's why they rely so much on other. Just take the first person that pops up in your head and just do a synopsis. Listen to how they talk, how they carry themselves, the things that they say versus the things that they do. And if you take the first person that pops up in your head and you apply that very understanding to that person, you will come to the realization that they do a lot of other stuff to distract them from the reality of their lives, because every time that they are faced in their reality, they complain, they whine, they don't triumph at it, they're not successful at it, they're getting their butt kicked at it, and they try to find anybody who will listen to them whine about it. But in the areas that of their competency or their perceived competencies, they may be a blowhard over there because their life sucks over here. Sad but true. People who dedicate their lives to their work and their jobs, and this is one of the things about women that I am trying to really help as many women as I can understand that boss bay, most times with people who are boss bays, their lives suck. Because you are filling yourself with so much other stuff
to mask
the fact that you are either lonely inside, that you don't feel good inside, that there's some aspect of yourself that is lacking tremendously. And speaking of lacking tremendously, we are 344 subscribers into our channel, and we are not at our first 1,000. Therefore, our YouTube channel is lacking tremendously, and we're going to go ahead and transition because we are getting tired. Because we have actually worked, and we came home and we worked. So, Midas, why don't you tell them a little bit about the YouTube channel so that they can get acclimated with what's going on, so they can go ahead and scan that little doohickey over on the side for us?
So please make sure that you head on over to the YouTube channel, The Extraordinary Man Podcast on YouTube. Okay, we got reels dropping every day, shorts dropping every day. That is where you can catch all of our lives, and we're slowly starting to actually get in actual videos. So you guys can keep up with us that way as well. Make sure that you use your communication device that turns you into a cyborg, and you scan that QR code. It's going to take you right into the channel. Make sure you like, share, subscribe, and click the bell. If you don't click the bell, you're not going to know when we're live. YouTube just worked that way. Now, make sure after you do that, there's a second stop. You have to head over to Facebook, okay? And there's a specific reason why you need to head over to Facebook. The specific reason is that is where you can connect with us directly, okay? That's where you can come in and we can have group discussions. We talk about health. We talk about mental health. We talk about currency. We talk about, stocks, whatever, what I'm saying? We talk about whatever over there. Okay. Make sure that you get in over there at the Facebook group so that you can tap in with us directly. Also, the YouTube channel and the Facebook group are the only places where you can get Money Mondays with Midas. That is where we talk about an article pertaining to anything dealing with the financial industry, whether it be technology, whether it be cars, whether it be banking, whether it be credit cards, whether it be investing. It doesn't matter. I read an article to keep you guys abreast on what's going on, and then we invest in real time. in real time. I actually load up my actual portfolio. I had emptied it out, you know what I'm saying? I didn't zero it out, but I did empty out enough to where we can start working together and build together. I want our community, not even necessarily just our community. I just want us as people, period, to start developing a comfortability around investing and develop a financial IQ to where we can now start making sound financial decisions. You can start putting money away for our families and things of that nature, really taking our money serious. Okay. So the purpose of the channel is to get you guys coming in to start investing in real time. And we do it with dollars. We do it with dollars. We're not dumping 10,000, 20,000, 30,000. We're not doing that. We surface level with it. I'm showing you guys what apps I'm actually using and what companies that I'm putting dollars in, becoming a boss for $1. So I want you guys tapping in on that aspect as well. So let's start building our money together. And that's all I got for you.
All right. So as always, I am Phil Jones. Mike Jones, have you guys know me personally or professionally, and I am the host of the Extraordinary Man podcast. And you guys understand who this absolutely amazing gentleman on the other side of this screen is. Like this absolutely gorgeous man that's on the other side of this screen that does everything better than anybody that I've ever seen do it before. And his artificial human realistic intelligence will make him work harder than you if he sees a way to do it, and he won't cheat. State your name.
No, I am Midas. Make sure you put a king in front of that. Let's go. Also, from time to time, you may see mini Midas.
Let's go. All right, peace.
Peace.